What does digital prosperity mean for Canada? How can we help individuals, businesses, and communities thrive in a digital everything future? Welcome to Faster Forward, powered by Interac. Here we will explore the possibilities of the digital future and the ways we can build the future together. I'm Fatema Pirone. As head of verification at Interac, I'm leading our work in building secure, scalable platforms that empower entrepreneurs to take advantage of the digital economy. Today, we talk about what truly enables Canadian entrepreneurship. So naturally, I called on someone who's passionate about this topic because she is an entrepreneur herself. In this conversation, I'm joined by Manjit Minhas. You may know Manjit as the long-standing dragon on CBC's Dragon's Den, but she's also the co-founder and CEO of Minhas Breweries and Distilleries, where she's grown a global business empire from the ground up. Together, we'll explore innovation and entrepreneurship in Canada, how our digital economy could evolve over the next 5, 10, or even 15 years. Welcome to Faster Forward. Welcome, Manjit. At Interac, our North Star is to lead Canadians to digital prosperity. Given your experience, how would you define digital prosperity?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about digital prosperity because I truly believe it is what sets apart individuals and their success and businesses. Small, medium, large, doesn't really matter what size they are. That technology is the basis of everything everybody has to use in order to become prosperous. And I think that first and foremost, everybody has to be able to have the access to those digital tools. It doesn't matter who you are. And that means that it's affordable and that it's simple. I am definitely not a tech master like my kids, but the simplicity of it, meaning that it's embedded in our systems or it's intuitive to how we live and work, I think is super important. I also think that the other thing in this day and age, everybody's scared of fraud, that we have to be able to trust it, that it needs to feel secure. As a business owner, I think that we all need to know that when I'm looking for digital technology, that it has to be fast, it has to be able to invoice, it has to be able to receive faster, cheaper, reliably than anything I've used before in order to keep up with the speed of my business. And it has to be efficient and accurate. I think that is the most important key too, also to people using it more and more often, and us to be, as a society, more prosperous, that it be accurate and that we trust it. Is that in line with your professional experience at Interac?
I would say absolutely. It aligns closely both with my professional experience and our focus here at Interac. Entrepreneurs and small businesses are really the backbone of our economy. For them to thrive, the digital prosperity has to mean giving them the ability to innovate, grow faster, and compete not just locally, but also internationally and globally. So from my own work in product development with emerging technologies, one of those key trends I've seen that is critical in that role is digital identity. Whether it's accessing something where authentication is required or establishing something new where someone needs to verify their identity information, a strong, trusted digital identity is foundational. What you just spoke about in terms of fraud mitigation, as well as that more and more of our lives move into the digital world, a secure, seamless identity solution becomes the underpinning of participation. And when you start connecting identity with payments, you are unlocking even greater potential, making those interactions faster, safer, more intuitive. That's the kind of infrastructure that really enables leveling playing field and supports prosperity that we're talking about. Innovation must feel innate for you, right? What happens when you don't honor that instinct? Are there personal or professional consequences of ignoring that creative drive?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been in business 26 years now. I started when I was 19. And yes, things have changed, but they also haven't. I've always believed that innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity, not a threat. And I think those are the individuals and the companies especially that not only survive, but continue to thrive. And I think if you don't honor that creativity in many different ways and accept that you have to use other tools. When you're starting out, it's creating a team around you that is smarter than you, individuals and technology, in order to solve problems. And I think that now that is not any different. We're always solving problems, and problem solving is the best, not only innovation, but it is how that we continue to push ourselves to be better, to be bigger, but also to be successful when creating products or services, or just really pushing ourselves to think outside the box. And I truly have always believed that the future belongs to those who embrace innovation in whatever form it is that they are creating in. And so definitely there's innovation in everything, whether it's beer or vodka that I'm doing, and or all of the other dozens of businesses that I'm investing in, from the CPG space to technology. Some we get right, and some are for a moment in time, and some last longer when those founders and entrepreneurs are willing to innovate and continually change and just not stay stuck where they are, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you did touch a little bit about like the fail fast concept in innovation. Innovation has measure of failure with winning. So love that. Let's talk about Canada specifically. In 2025, the OECD found that while resilient, Canada's GDP performance and productivity continue to lag. In your opinion, what is currently working in Canada, and what are some of the things we need to change?
What's working well is that we have some amazing talent, some homegrown talent that is from here, but also some global talent that universities and companies are bringing into Canada to help not only collaborate, but bring other ideas to the table. Because I'm a truly big believer in diversity of thought. And you get that from diversity of individuals, from where they're raised, where they're educated, socioeconomic status, a variety of different things, right? And so I think that those strong tech ecosystems across Canada are focusing on solving problems and creating new tools, such as in AI, in fintech, and clean tech, and health tech. Just so many different areas that are really moving forward at quite a fast pace. And then there's the trust and stability of the financial institutions in this country that help foster and actually provide some stability in that, which I think is important, because that's not the case in every country, as we know. Then definitely some government support programs have helped. Government has to be a part of not only bringing talent and securing that, but also making it a viable place to innovate and develop that IP, but then also a safe space for people to be able to do that. And then I think in Canada, we have a lot of big thinkers, and we have that global mindset. We are a small country, which we know, but we also are a country that believes in giving back on the global stage. And we do that by having that mindset that we're going to create not only for our 35 million-ish people, but for the world, for the rest of the 7.5 billion people, which I think definitely helps set us apart and helps us think bigger. But like you said, there's things that aren't working either. I do think that with government comes that con, which is the red tape and bureaucracy to help those people collaborate, to bring them over. Definitely harder to access capital in this country when it comes to a variety of big projects in this day and age. Just in general, sometimes we can be less risk tolerant with that capital. And we don't always have those diverse investors that either have patient capital and or are looking to solve big, unique problems. I think that there definitely is that digital divide here, that lack of access for everybody to be able to be involved, to either test, to use. Definitely, it's not a level playing field, unfortunately. And then I think the country shined a light on the international trade barriers that are definitely not working and definitely hindering our prosperity and our success in this country today, and hopefully not in the future. Hopefully we can solve that. But I would say that that is definitely a real problem.
Tying into that, there is a growing Canada First mentality in our innovation spaces. What's the upside of that shift, and what actions do Canadian businesses need to take to turn this momentum into results?
a variety of things. I think that's where this collaboration piece comes in. And it definitely not an us versus them necessarily mentality, but it is a how do we not rely on others and look towards our own talent, our own country, our own companies, our own government to say, how do we win and succeed using what we have, the tools that we have, but also what needs to be innovated here that we can succeed? And what are the gaps? I think sometimes in the last maybe decade or so, I would say even in my own company, we haven't been as critical as we have been in the last 6 months to say, what are those gaps? What are we missing? How can we think a little bit differently and not just deliver a product, but deliver an experience that is created by us, owned by us in a lot of different ways from end to end? But how do we use technology to do that more faster, more efficiently, and have us actually winning in different ways and not just accept the status quo? And so the good old saying is the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I think many of us are not just now sitting on our laurels to say, okay, we're going to let somebody else do it for us or open other gateways. We're going to push to do it ourselves. And I think that many of us are learning more, whether it be about AI and how technology can not improve our life and our businesses, make us more competitive, but then also help us win for the future. So Fatema, what is Interac thinking about when it comes to fostering innovation in Canada?
Everything you said resonates with me. What stands out, especially when you talked about the needs to change, it's not about having the best technology or the most tools. It's about creating access and finding alignment and building an economy that's focused on a shared goal. Our president and CEO, Jeremy Wilmot, often shares a powerful anecdote. He points out that countries that are surging ahead are doing so not because they have better technology. They're moving fast because they have alignment, they have urgency, they have a shared sense of purpose. So at Interac, we are in a unique position. We're really sitting at the center of Canada's digital payment ecosystem. That means we can connect organization, convene partners, and foster alignment across sectors. That's where our role as an enabler and a network comes in. We are able to offer our position to Canadian economy to create less fragmentation, unlock opportunities, and promote innovation and growth so more Canadians and businesses and communities can thrive. Today, we're talking about the enablers of innovation, the foundation pieces that make a prosperous digital economy possible. So if you were walking through an innovation grocery store, what would be on your list of ingredients?
Yeah, I haven't been to an actual grocery store in a while, but my online grocery list, I guess there would be quite a few. I think first and foremost, it has to be financing. It has to be capital, right? And then it has to be access to mentorships and networks. I think that gets forgotten sometimes, and it kind of close to what you were just talking about the collaboration, about the businesses across sectors, about the alignment of individuals. And I think that we all need that to get out of our bubble. It's super important. But definitely, I would put that up there with the mentorships and networks. Then I think you can't do it without people, talent. I think that everybody reads the paper online or in real life, and you see about how people aren't going to be involved, but they absolutely are involved. So it's the talent, it's their skill, their passion, their diversity of thought, their experience, their education, like what they're bringing to the table. And that all involves people. You need the people, but you need the infrastructure also, right? The digital, the physical, the financial, which I talked about. And then it all doesn't work if there isn't that trust and security piece to it. Without that, it's really hard to bring all of that together. And then once you have that, I really do think that you need the data and the insights to know whether it's working or not. We all need the KPIs and the metrics in order to know what we're solving for. Are we being successful or are we just going in circles? And I think that data more and more is important to not only making decisions, but helping in order to move the line to say, where are we going and how are we driving towards a goal? And then I think it all comes under that umbrella for everybody, which is that digital literacy piece, is that I have 2 young kids. And I think that it is one of the things that I spend the most amount of time on with them other than math, but I guess that's connected too, is the digital literacy part, which we didn't learn growing up. I'm born and raised here in Calgary, and I didn't learn that until I was an adult. And I think that that has to be innate, just as it is for them that they play video games in their sleep, that digital literacy is super, super important and definitely a part of that grocery list. That's more than a few things in my basket. But I think that when they all come together, that's when the magic happens.
For sure. And a bit tied to what you're just speaking to, Manjit, getting a little bit more technical, innovation today often does overlap with digital transformation, AI, cloud-first strategies, real-time systems. Are these now all must-haves for entrepreneurs, or are there still optional enhancements?
All of these things are definitely must-haves for entrepreneurs. They are not optional anymore. I think that they're not only foundational, but they are how it enables founders, entrepreneurs, individuals even who have a side hustle, enable them to rethink their businesses when challenges hit them, when it be black swan events like the pandemic or tariffs or trade wars, or these days, well, you never know what's happening in the next 24 hours. So they are must-haves, absolutely. It helps everybody act more agilely and quickly, which is important in this day and age. It gives competitive advantages to Canadian businesses, no matter where they are, whether they're in big cities or rural areas, and where their teams are working together. It definitely helps. It also provides that scalability and flexibility, which I think wasn't something that many of us thought about a decade ago. But if you have, investors, if you have competitors, which everybody does now more and more of, you have to think about how I'm able to scale and how I'm able to do that in a moment in time when all of the things around me, the uncontrollables, are playing to my advantage, and when I need to take advantage of those, and how do I tap into that? And right now, whether it be things like the Canadian sentiment, whether it be supply chain, how do I be flexible even in order to change and move in order to help my business not only survive, but thrive? And I think many, many people who have an open mind to those things and think of those technologies as must-haves are the ones that are going to win and be around for the long run. So Fatema, there used to be a time when we would ask ourselves, are you a tech business? But today, every business, small, medium, or large, should be a tech business. How does this sentiment play into the Interac strategy?
Great question. Helping businesses grow and prosper is always on top of mind for us at Interac. It's really at the heart of what we mean when we talk about digital prosperous future. The foundation of our platform and solutions are built on that. The question we're constantly asking ourselves, how can we create platforms and solutions that help Canadian businesses innovate, grow, and compete, whether they're small, medium, or large? I'll use an example, which is Interac Verified, the product that I lead in the market. It's a suite of solutions that are designed to help businesses unlock new digital opportunities. If a business can securely verify a customer, they can then speed up that onboarding and manage fraud better. They can grow in entirely new ways. The same is true for payments. Small and medium-sized businesses, gig workers, entrepreneurs, they need payment solutions that are secure, frictionless, and are able to scale alongside their businesses.
It's a game changer. When we have real-time payments, it not only increases efficiency, accuracy, and productivity, which we all want. We all want everything not only to be instant, we want it to be right, and it want it to be reliable. Nobody wants to be going back and checking it over and over. Otherwise, what's the point? And so that's super important. I think it also helps everybody understand what is their risk-taking abilities and their buying power. The quicker that you can understand where your money is coming and going, you can understand what your buying power is. And it gives more clarity to help making decisions, because we all have to make decisions faster. We can't now take weeks to make decisions when it comes to what we're buying, who we're collaborating with, where we're getting our ingredients from, all of those types of things. And the more you can understand and businesses can understand what they're able to buy with, that's super important and helps them either get better deals, take advantage of interest rates, a variety of different things, foreign exchange, a variety of different things. So that's super important. can help us react to opportunities. I think a lot of people ask me, is this a good time to be an entrepreneur? And I think absolutely. In times of challenge, when there are difficulties in a variety of different areas, whether it be geopolitically, whether it be with currency, whether it be a variety of different things, that is where there's opportunities to be had. But those opportunities often need money. And if you don't know how much you have or where it is, and you can't send it quickly or receive it quickly, that definitely can hinder your ability to pounce on those opportunities. And I think lastly, it builds the trust with your customers, partners, vendors, investors, banks, like whoever that might be. And I think that all comes down to how important the speed of money movement is now more so than ever.
We've talked a little bit about this in our conversation. What does the ideal public and private collaboration look like to you, especially when it comes to unlocking entrepreneurial potential?
Yeah, I think that the best collaborations do happen between public and private because each of them have different pros and cons. And the pros being, of course, in the public sector, as we've talked about, capital, more talent in usually a variety of spaces and expertise. But what they don't always have is quick decision making. They often have bureaucracy. Often they have a bigger, longer timeline to look at things. Whereas the private sector and also entrepreneurial sector looks at things a bit differently, right? A bit more fingers in, a bit more, how do we do this quicker? How do we get that competitive edge? Not necessarily on the macro, more on the micro. And so I think that collaboration brings different expertise always to the table, which is ideal because each has something to give and can always learn from each other. And I think that is often how success happens. Nobody does it alone. And as everybody knows that it's consistency, it's definitely the hard work, it's definitely opening your mind up in both sides to what is possible and what the other side has to bring to the table and what their advantages are. And so I think that it's a mindset for sure that is different in both sides, and when we're able to bring them together, it can be very powerful.
For sure. I love how you sort of touched on that. I think a lot of time people think about when working with public sector, specifically it's around policy, and it's not always around policies that they want to establish on various things, but sometimes it's bringing that voice to the table and getting over that collective hump that we're all working on.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to put it, because I think sometimes the difference between the small or the private or the entrepreneurial mind is that they don't think inside the box. Like they think that there is no box. And then you've got the public sector to come and say, okay, now let's kind of drill that down into say what is possible, what is legal, what is all of those things. But I do think that you have to start often with that really big, those big ideas, and then have somebody to help you drill it down. And that's where those collaborations help.
For sure. Looking ahead, how do you see the digital landscape evolving for Canadian entrepreneurs? What new opportunities or challenges do you think they will face in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'm not really sure how to answer this question, because I think that entrepreneurs and businesses in this country rely on technology companies, but also others to tell them what is happening and how they can use it. And that's the trust factor. How does public and private come together? The digital infrastructure, the talent, the training, the data sharing, the pilot programs. I think that I hope that they all work together and that there's all challenges. I don't know necessarily how they get solved and how quickly they get solved, because I think the next 5 to 10 years are really important. But you tell me, what do you think?
Great question. It is a tricky one because there's a lot of trends that we've seen sort of coming or bubbling up in the Canadian market, actually globally for a while now. Like open banking is a really great example. We're seeing a lot of advancements in AI. I think what opportunities really lie for anyone who wants to be in that space is being very plugged into what opportunities those trends unlock for the Canadian population. Like why open banking matters. Open banking matters because You have consumers who are looking to get a full overview of their finances in one spot. And if you're an entrepreneur who could provide that service, you should definitely start looking at what is it that is happening from a Canadian markets perspective, and what are those key points and periods where some of that capability will be available for you to leverage. I think the AI space, and I'm sure we don't need to talk about it here because everybody else talks about it, it is advancing so fast and there's just so much opportunity in that space. I think this is the first time in our time where Canada is getting very attuned into how much we're relying on others on creating capabilities and technologies for us. And there is a matter of sovereignty. How do we build capability and solutions for Canadians by Canadians and keep that in Canada? And I would love to see the market really invest deeply in here, both public and private sector, in making that real. So in 5 to 10 years, we are not so reliant on outside and big tech.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing vision. And I think that most individuals and businesses just never thought about it before, right? Never thought to that depth as to who was creating and where. A simple thing is Interac even. I can't tell you over the last years, I started to learn more about Interac, that it's a Canadian company. Most people are like, what, are you kidding me? And so I think that is unfortunately surprising to many people. And I think that shouldn't be surprising. Most people should say, yes, of course it is. And so are so many other great innovative companies who are helping us succeed and prosper and thinking differently for us are Canadian. And so I think that is something that, unfortunately, before this, many of us didn't really think about. We just assumed.
Now, given this conversation, is there anything you would add or revise in Interac's vision?
I think in my own vision, I think Interac's vision is definitely miles ahead of what any other entrepreneur or user of the technology and systems can imagine what they're doing behind the scenes, which is comforting in so many different ways, but also exciting that it is important for us to all, definitely expand our knowledge as to what are our enablers to help us succeed. And I loved how you talked about that there are opportunities for businesses across sectors to help each other innovate and grow. And I think that so many of us think that we're alone and have to do it by ourselves. Or if we do it with others, only the big companies with infinite capital and resources and people can do it. But no, you guys are helping everybody do that, even on a smaller scale. And that helps us not only be more confident, but definitely engage in digital lives together. Even in my own household, I'm now definitely opening up to, okay, after I get off this call, how do I do that with my family members, never mind, and my parents and my in-laws who are aging, that I'm taking more control over their finances? How do I do that easier using your guys' tools rather than using a bunch of separate tools? And I think that is how we all learn from each other, and you guys are really helping everybody do that. And like we said, that mentorship, that apprentice, that data sharing, that training, and helping us to understand what is the sandbox that we all can play in and help each other have a safe space to test those ideas to see what works for us.
So finally, Manjit, if you were going back in time as a brand new innovator, what are some of the things you wish you knew before you embarked on that journey?
Oh, so much. Where do I start? But I think that there's a couple things, definitely based on our conversation today, is that you have to continuously be learning. There's education on a variety of things, but especially technology. It's very simple when I started 26 years ago to be always on the forefront, to understand how it's an enabler and not to be scared of it. And then the execution part of that. Once you learn, you have to use it to understand and unlock its capabilities. Then you got to collaborate, like get out of your own bubble. Like, I think that some things need to be kept secrets, like as in what is the one little piece of magic in your secret sauce, but otherwise you do have to collaborate. I think when it comes to capital, what are the different types of funding that you can unlock? What are the other resources that are available, not just the traditional forms? And I think that for many people who are of certain generations, that technology just isn't a tool. It is a language of our future. I truly, truly believe. And the quicker you embrace it, the better off you will be. in so many different ways. It won't be scary. So there's a lot there, but I think that in the end of the day, it's always about the mindset as to how you continually grow and thrive.
Awesome. Take one step at a time.
Yeah, agreed. How about you? After our conversation, what would be some of the takeaways you'd want our listeners to have?
I think you covered them quite well. What I really liked is the concept around learning. I think that is something we take for granted. And part of learning is definitely using, even if it is something like TikTok, right? We talk about social media and the impact on our society, but if you're actually not on it and you haven't played around with it, how do you know that impact? So I do think being hands-on is quite important. And if you're young, honestly, try very many different things because that's how you learn about yourself and that's how you realize where some of the issues and problems that require innovation is going to be. So be open-minded as you embark on your journey, and everything that Manjit you spoke about, I think they should note that as well. Manjit, thank you so much for sharing your vision, your insights. It is clear that we share a common belief around Canada's digital future and what it should be, which is inclusive, trusted, and built for everyone. At Interac, we are committed to using our unique position at the center of the ecosystem to make that happen. And I just wanted to thank you for your time, and this was really fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I learned a lot, not only during our conversation, but leading up to our conversation. And I hope that our audience goes out and explores not only what Interac has to offer, but what digital tools they can use to help prosper in their personal lives and their professional lives.
That's our conversation with Manjit Minhas. And what a powerful reminder that enabling innovation in Canada is about more than just having the latest technology. It is about access, trust, and the right conditions for entrepreneurs to thrive. From her innovation grocery list, including capital, mentorship, talent, and infrastructure, to the importance of collaboration, Manjit made it clear that no one builds prosperity alone. We need both agility of the private sector and the stability of the public sector to create real momentum. Thanks for listening. If you took one thing from this episode, I hope it's this. The future we imagine for Canadian entrepreneurs is one we can build together, and the best time to start is now.